Hello and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD, Part 2, Addressing and Treating ADHD. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I'm also an author, a speaker, a trainer, and perhaps most importantly, a foster parent myself. Just a word of advice before we begin this training webinar. If you have not watched ADHD Part 1 here at the Foster Care Institute, I encourage you to go back and watch that one first before you view this one. As a foster parent of over 60 children who have come through my home, I've had several children who have come through my home and my family who have experienced ADHD. So therefore, I can assure you I have seen this firsthand up close in my own home. Our goal during this webinar is to increase awareness of how to best address ADHD in children and how to help them. We're going to increase your awareness of what ADHD is and how it impacts lives, and again, develop strategies designed to aid children and youth with ADHD. Throughout this webinar, we are going to examine some quotes from some parents who have had children diagnosed with ADHD in their lives and in their family. Our first quote comes from a parent by the initials DS. And DS says this: "Picture a room with 1,000 TVs, with each TV showing something different. Now, try and concentrate on just one TV without getting distracted." DS suggests that's what it's like having ADHD. Now, before we go and examine strategies to best address ADHD and help those children, we're going to quickly review what ADHD is. This is just a quick synopsis from the first webinar. As we discovered in that first webinar, ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It is a medical condition. A person with ADHD has differences in brain development and brain activity that affect attention, affects the ability to sit still, and affects the ability for self-control. ADHD can affect a child at school, it can affect a child at home, and it can affect a child in friendships. And this comes to us from kidshealth.org. According to the Center for Disease Control, ADHD is generally diagnosed in children by the time they're teenagers, with the average age for moderate ADHD diagnosis being around 7 years of age. Again, from our first webinar, we looked at what is ADHD. We're going to look at it again briefly here. It is estimated that about 4 to 12% of children have ADHD. Boys are 2 to 3 times more likely than girls to suffer from ADHD. There are those who suggest that ADHD is generational. It is commonly found in brothers and sisters, indeed within the same family. In addition, children in foster care are 3 times more likely to have ADHD than children from traditional families. Let me repeat this. Children placed in the foster care system are 3 times more likely to suffer from ADHD than children from traditional families. Finally, those children placed in foster care who have experienced trauma, they are often misdiagnosed, suffering from ADHD due to their trauma. One more time. Those children in foster care who have experienced trauma are often misdiagnosed with having ADHD due to the trauma they've experienced. Parent KE says this: living with ADHD is like walking up a down escalator. You can get there eventually, but the journey is exhausting. Continuing on in our review of ADHD, more than 1 in 4 children between the ages of 2 and 17 who were in foster care had received an ADHD diagnosis at some point, compared to about 1 in 14 of all other children in Medicaid. Those children who have had a diagnosis of ADHD, those in foster care, were as likely as others to be treated with the ADHD medication, but were more likely to receive psychological services. About 3 out of the 4 children with ADHD in foster care received some psychological care. And finally, children with ADHD who were or who are in foster care are more likely to have another disorder. Roughly half are diagnosed with conditions such as oppositional defiant disorder, depression, or anxiety. This is compared to about 1 in 3 children with ADHD in Medicaid who were not in foster care. The past several slides come to us from the Centers for Disease Control. And you can find this information and more at their website. The truth is this: children who suffer from ADHD are simply doing the very best they can. As parents and caregivers, it is important, it is essential, it is necessary that we understand that and that we remember that when we are caring for and dealing with these children. So, with that in mind, how do we help? How do we help those children placed in our home, those children living with our families who suffer from ADHD? How do we help? Well, as we've seen here several times at the Foster Care Institute, the very first thing we can't do is this: we can't take their behavior personally. To be sure, living with a child who suffers from and is diagnosed with ADHD, it can be exhausting, but we can't take their behavior personally. When that child is yelling, or that child is defiant, or that child is struggling, that child is giving us as parents a difficult time, we can't take that personally. It has nothing to do with us as parents. It has nothing to do with us as caretakers. It has nothing to do with us as a foster family. It does not mean we are bad parents. It does not mean we are a failure as a parent, as a caretaker, as a foster family. We can't take their behavior personally. How we respond to a child with ADHD is important. We need to make sure that we avoid yelling, that we avoid being aggressive towards the child. When the child may be yelling at us and has intensity in their voice, we need to make sure that our voice is lowered, that our tone is lowered, that we lower the intensity in our own voice. If possible, with a young child, try to come down to their level and look them in the eyes. Try to hold hands if it is possible and if it is necessary. Use simple calming words. One parent, an anonymous one, says this: because ADHD is not a visible medical disorder, people don't understand that it is just as disabling as those that are visible. It requires understanding and acceptance that people with ADHD need some accommodations at times to perform to their potential. When you're caring for a child with ADHD in your home, make sure you remain in control. Stay in control. Make sure you regulate and monitor your own emotions. Do not be quick to become angry. Do not be quick to become frustrated or depressed or sad. Regulate your own emotions. Make sure that you are patient, that you are generous, that you are compassionate, that you are caring, and that you are a loving parent every time the child wants and needs. Every time the child wants something and needs something, every time the child wants your attention and needs your attention, every time the child wants your love, your compassion, your patience, your generosity, and needs it. And as we know, every child needs love. Every child deserves your love, your patience, your generosity, and your compassion. One way to help those with ADHD is various forms of therapy. As we've said here at the Foster Care Institute a number of times over the years, simply loving a child does not heal all wounds, does not help all situations. There will be times when therapy is an important and necessary part of how you best aid, best assist, best help a child in your home who is diagnosed with ADHD. There's behavior therapy. Behavior therapy begins by using behavior changing strategies. I like that. Behavior changing strategies changes the behavior of the child, such as reward systems and time in for dealing with difficult situations. If you have a copy of the best-selling book, The Foster Care Survival Guide, or if you've seen other webinars here at the Foster Care Institute, then you are familiar with time in. Time in is different than time out. Let's review briefly here what time in is. Time in is a form of discipline when misbehavior occurs in your home. When a child is placed in time in, the child is placed near you. They're placed and remain in close proximity to you. They're not separated from you. They're not isolated. They stay around you. This allows the child to be close to you or an adult instead of being placed away, put aside, as in time out. In time in, children are likely to feel that their needs are being considered. There's a connection between the parent and the child before a correction is presented. Children are given time to properly process a range of their feelings. And as we know, many times children in foster care experience such overwhelming confusion and overwhelming emotions and anxiety, they don't know how to process it properly. So during time in, they're given that time to process their emotions, to process their range of feelings. Parents don't feel out of control or create a power struggle to keep a child in the time out. Time in may look like this. If a child is placed in time in, perhaps a child is is sitting at a table with you, and maybe the two of you are working on a puzzle or drawing a picture together. Maybe the child is sitting on a rug while you are doing laundry in the room. Maybe the child is sitting in a chair or at a table in the kitchen while you are doing dishes. Maybe the two of you are sitting on a couch reading a book together, or you are doing something where the child is sitting there next to you doing something different. Again, the child is placed in proximity to you, not away from the child, so you don't have to make sure the child is staying in time out. Now, during this time, the child does not feel isolated. The child is not scared. The child is not ashamed. It gives you and the child the opportunity to discuss what may have happened, to talk about why the child is in time in, to talk about the real issue at hand. It may allow the child to open up about why he acted in this way, or what he might be experiencing, or what he might be afraid of, or confused about, or angry about. Again, time in allows a child to be near you, not away from you. And many times it gives that child the opportunity to share how they're feeling with you. And that's where growth happens. Another form of popular therapy is family therapy. Family therapy can help both the parents and the siblings, perhaps your own biological children if you're a foster family, understand what ADHD is, how it affects the entire family, and how to best deal with the stress of having a family member living in your home that has ADHD. Family therapy may be you and your spouse or partner and the child, perhaps even your own biological children. Again, it allows everybody to understand what's going on, how it affects the family, and how to best address it. Parent RB says this about ADHD. It's magic and fire all rolled into one. My son is bright and energetic, yet easily frustrated and distracted. It is a constant battle to help him, to get help from others, because so many are ignorant on the issue and think ADHD doesn't exist. I accept my son as he is, and I think his ADHD just makes his world that much more colorful. I personally like that last part. His ADHD just makes his world that much more colorful. What a wonderful way to look at it. Another form of therapy is psychotherapy. This form of therapy allows a child to talk about the challenges and stress that he might experience and suffer from. In addition, it allows a child to learn ways to best address his or her ADHD. Again, as noted in the best-selling book, The Foster Care Survival Guide, we look at other forms of therapy that you can use in your own home. These include music therapy. Perhaps a child in your home could be allowed a musical instrument, maybe guitar lessons or piano lessons, maybe a harmonica, maybe learning a musical instrument in the school band. Music allows a child to express themselves. At the same time, find peace. Another form of therapy that allows a child to express himself is art therapy. When a child is given colorful pens and markers or crayons or paint and a piece of paper or canvas, it's often amazing what that child creates. What that child creates is a form of therapy, art therapy. Again, allows a child to express himself through art and find some healing. Play therapy is a wonderful form of therapy. Many times, children in foster care simply do not know how to use the act of play. That child in your home might need you to teach him or her how to play. That may include you getting down the floor of the child and playing dolls, or rolling the ball, playing board games, whatever, hide and seek, tag, allowing the child to laugh. Finally, animal therapy. The simple act of stroking or petting a cat or a dog or a soft animal such as a rabbit allows a child to find peace. It's relaxing. It's comforting. Many times a child will talk to the animal. Talking to the animal does not talk back to the child, does not criticize the child, does not judge the child. It simply sits there and appreciates being petted, right? Sure. Animal therapy is a wonderful way for your child to find healing. And all forms of these therapy can be used in your own home. Again, this comes from the best-selling book, The Foster Care Survival Guide. If you have a child suffering from ADHD in your home, help that child to find sense of calm. Help the child to develop breathing techniques and relational skills. When the child is struggling, when she is having a difficult time, tell her it's okay. Tell her it's okay to feel the way she does. Give words to her emotions. Say something like this: I see that you are upset. I hear that you are angry. I can see that you're confused. I hear sadness in your voice. You're giving words to this child, words they can use that they can understand their emotions better, and they're giving validity to that. Again, you're not criticizing that, you're just showing that you can see how they may be feeling. Every child needs to hear words of affection and love on a daily basis. And that includes those children in your home who suffer from ADHD. Remind him how important he is. Show her how grateful and thankful you are for her gifts, her special gifts, and her special attributes. Remember what that parent said earlier about ADHD in their home? The special gifts, attributes. Catch a child in the act of being good. The act of being good. Look for opportunities when a child is doing the right thing, behaving in a positive way, and praising them for doing just that. Thank you so much for keeping your room clean. It looks fantastic. I'm so grateful for that. It looks wonderful. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you for helping me to unpack the dishwasher. You're the best dishwasher unpacker we've ever had in this household. Wow, thank you for helping me by taking the garbage out. I am so grateful for that. You're a big help for this family. Look at the way the dog is so excited to see you when you feed the dog. Thank you for being the dog's #1 friend. Again, look for opportunities to praise that child. As we mentioned earlier, several slides back, it's important to give the eye contact to the child. At every opportunity you have, look the child in the eye with a smile. Words of encouragement. Again, get in their eye level. Get down to their floor if you need to, or sit down with them when you talk with them. Hold hands if possible. And remember, your eyes are expressive. We talked about words of encouragement, words of praise. There's power in praise. So find ways and opportunities to praise a child every time you get the chance, all day long. Again, it may include things like this: thank you for helping with the chores. I really appreciate when you feed the cat or keep your room clean. Hey, you made a wonderful drawing. Can we put it on the refrigerator, please? How did you think of that? You are so clever. What is your favorite part about this movie? Tell me about it, please. Looking for ways to encourage them to talk with you and give them praise about it. Sometimes just say nothing at all. Sometimes just smile. Smile can be very healing in itself as well. When you have a child in your home with ADHD, be realistic. Be realistic and reasonable with your expectations. Don't think that simply loving the child is going to heal all things and help all things. At the same time, don't expect therapy and treatments to quickly resolve all issues either. It takes time. It takes time. So be reasonable and realistic with your expectations. Your expectations about the child, your expectations about the power of praise, your expectations about family or various forms of therapy. One important aspect of helping a child with ADHD is helping them learn important social skills. Saying hello and goodbye, please and thank you, not talking to somebody when they're feeling very, very angry or yelling at somebody, not hitting, those things like that. Social skills. Teach them those social skills. It's most likely that if a child is placed in your home from the foster care system, that perhaps they've never had anybody teach them those social skills. It's up to you. When you teach them those important social skills, it will help them to better respond in appropriate fashion. The power of routine is important for children who have ADHD. Children need routine and they thrive on it. So put in place some defined routines for morning, for after school, for bedtime, and try to, if possible, stick to them. In our home, it may look like this. We get up in the morning, we make our beds, we get dressed, brush our teeth, wash our face and hands, come down for breakfast, have breakfast, get ready for school. After school, we come in, have a glass of water, wash our hands, a healthy snack. We begin homework. When homework is accomplished, we may have some playtime, and then we prepare dinner together. And then after dinner, we sit down at the table together as a family. After dinner, we do some chores. It's bath or shower time. We may have some playtime after that, some reading time, and bedtime. And we try to have that consistent routine on a daily basis during the school week. Now, the weekends, it may be a different sort of routine. To be sure, it's important to allow the children to be part of that routine, which means encourage them to perhaps create part of that routine or come up with some ideas. Of course, there's times when the routine may not work out. Maybe you're going to the circus one afternoon after school, or there's a party, or there's a band concert or a football game, whatever it might be. It's important for flexibility. Visitations, counseling sessions, doctor's appointments, all, of course, foster parents experience as well. So allow that flexibility when needed. Identify what might be a difficult situation for the child in your home and try to avoid placing that child in a difficult situation, because those children who suffer from ADHD often struggle when a difficult situation is presented to them. So try to avoid placing the child in said difficult situation. Much like routine, organization skills can help your child at the same time. Help your child learn how to organize their room, organize their clothes, their toys, their school materials. Help a child set up a quiet place for homework in your home, maybe at the dining room or the kitchen, maybe in their bedroom or in a personal library. Gather materials for their homework spot and have them organized: pens, pencils, paper, rulers, calculator, etc. Avoid clutter in the child's room and in their homework spot. Again, organization helps a child with ADHD. Another way of helping a child with ADHD is having a healthy lifestyle. Regular sleep, and plenty of it. We have a whole training webinar here at the Foster Care Institute about sleep disorders, and I would encourage you to watch it. The power of sleep is a powerful one, a powerful tool, if you will, for all family members and all children, particularly those children who have experienced some type of trauma or anxiety or disorders like ADHD. So again, regular sleep, plenty of it. Watch the webinar on eating disorders and sleep disorders. Eating disorders, healthy diet, eating habits, another webinar for you. Exercise and vitamin D are wonderful ways to help children with ADHD. As you may have guessed or may have seen, Children with ADHD often struggle in school. So it's important for you to be the child's advocate in school. Make yourself known to your child's teachers, to the school counselors, to the school's vice principals and principals and administrators. Share your contact information with them and ask for their contact information in return. Let the teachers, the counselors, the school administrators know that they may contact you anytime the child is having a difficult time in school. And let them know, let the teachers, counselors, administrators know that you are caring for this child. This child suffers from ADHD and has had a difficult time in life. That may help you form a stronger and healthier relationship with the school members. Now, as we've seen here in several of our webinars, and including the best-selling book, Helping Foster Children in School, children in foster care very much struggle with schoolwork on a number of issues, perhaps on things like family trees, or what you did on summer vacation, or family histories. So when that comes about, perhaps you could ask your teacher, the child's teacher, for other schoolwork, maybe some supplement schoolwork. My wife is a doctor of naturopathic medicines. In our home, we try to have as much healthy, nutritional medicines as we can. We do know, as a society, that children in foster care are often over-medicated. Now, to be sure, medications can be used to treat behavioral concerns, but the real work and real healing is done through various forms of therapy. When you feel a child needs to have some type of medication for their ADHD, always, always, always consult with the doctor and the caseworker before giving the child any form of medication. And as we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute's ebook on documentation, make sure you have a document form for medication. If you do not have that ebook, you can download it here at the Foster Care Institute. It has all the documentation forms that you need. There are other alternative forms of medications. There's vitamins and supplements. There's herbal supplements as well. There are lifestyle changes such as yoga, maybe meditation or prayer, special kinds of diets, and of course, try to avoid fatty acids for those children as well as for you as well. Let's talk a little bit about you. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. When caring for a child in foster care in your home, when caring for a child who has suffered trauma and is filled with anxiety in your home, when caring for a child who has ADHD in your home, it can be exhausting at times. Perhaps it's one of the reasons why foster parents burn out and suffer from stress and compassion fatigue. So therefore, it's important that you care for yourself. If you can't take care of you, there's no possible way you can care for yourself. Care for children in your home and other members of your family. We have a whole webinar here about this at the Foster Care Institute. I would encourage you to watch it for more. Do your research. Read books about ADHD. Watch videos and webinars. Listen to podcasts about ADHD. Attend classes. And perhaps most importantly, talk to other parents that have children in their home with ADHD. Ask them what are some of the ways that best helped their family. What are some of the things they did that best helped the child? And how did they handle it when the child was having a challenging and difficult time? Parent LM says this: once diagnosed and treatment started, the changes have been incredible. Math, multitasking, and overall cognitive abilities have increased many times over. What was once almost impossible for me is now effortless, and I find ways to improve daily. Make no mistake, caring for a child in your home with ADHD can be exhausting. But when you recognize the symptoms of ADHD and you recognize the ways to best address it to help the child and your family, that's how you help everybody. For much more, visit the website drjohndegarmofostercare.com or the Foster Care Institute. Make sure you follow me on Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo Foster Care Expert, at Twitter, and my email is drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. We mentioned this book several times throughout this webinar, The Foster Care Survival Guide, the essential guide for today's foster parents. I'd encourage you to pick up a copy of it. And you can find that and many other best-selling foster care books at the Foster Care Institute. I have no doubt there's a book there right now that best suits and best fits what you're going through right now. Being a parent today is challenging. Being a parent of a child in foster care is exhausting at times. Being a parent of a child with ADHD can be oh so challenging. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for not only watching this webinar, but I want to thank you for being a patient, a generous, a compassionate, and a loving parent. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.